everybody. Out for a little lunchtime ride today, and it's an absolutely gorgeous spring New England day. It's May the 3rd, 2021, and it's an absolutely gorgeous day to be out for a ride. It's sunny, 70 degrees, no wind, dry. Couldn't ask for a better day to be out on a bike. And I thought today I'd go for a little lunchtime ride. And while I was out, I figured I would talk about bike I'm riding today, which I haven't talked about before, and that's my 2006 Yamaha TW200. Now, this bike is my own personal favorite motorcycle of all time, and I can kind of get into why on that a little bit later. We actually have two of these, so we have a his and hers pair, and a little corny, I know, but it's just I bought one, and she wanted one, so bought another one, and just so happens they're both 2006s, and we enjoyed these things a lot, and like I said, I'll talk about that in a little bit. Before I do, I want to talk about what this bike is for those that aren't familiar with it. So the TW200 is a 200cc dual sport motorcycle that's built by Yamaha, and what makes it unique is they have really fat tires. So on the front they have a 130, and on the rear it's a 180, and they're kind of like ATV tires. It's very different in the dual sport world, which normally has like a dirt bike size tire. These are, the front tires, wider than most sport bikes, and the rear is right there with it, but they're knobbies. And that's kind of what makes this bike unique. It also has a very approachable, seat height of 31 inches, and really easy to ride power, and almost unstallable, which make it a great beginner bike. If you've taken an MSF course, there's a chance you might have taken it on one of these, because they're very popular in that arena, kind of like the Nighthawk 250. They're really popular for those classes. Yamaha has been making this bike since 1987, so they've been around quite some time. And in that time, they've haven't really changed much on them. Like they made the biggest set of changes they made came back in 2001, where they changed the front brake to a disc. They removed the Kickstarter, which is unfortunate, and they changed the carburetor to a constant velocity style carburetor instead of a mechanical slide, probably for emissions. I don't really know why, but they did. Other than that, same bike. And really from 2001 until today, 2021, the only other changes they've made have been mostly cosmetic. They change the color schemes every year to differentiate them. And then in, I think it was 2017, they changed the rear shock. I don't know if they got a new manufacturer, if they made an upgrade to it. I have no idea, but it's different. I know the spring is different. But other than that, the bike is the same. I mean, it's like I could basically take all the parts I put on this bike over the years and bolt them to a 2021 if I wanted to. And they would all just fit. So that's a little bit about the TW200. I mean, these bikes have they have a cult following in on the internet. There's a TW forum. It's got lots of members. These bikes are hard to find used because people tend to hang on to them for a long, long time. And if you do find one used, it'll be sold before you can even react to it, probably 80% of the time. Like, I feel lucky to get the two that we have. It just like the stars aligned. I'd been searching for months when I bought my first one, and then when we bought the second one, I bought it in the winter time, so it sat a little bit longer, and I was able to work out a time to go get it. But the guy had like 50 inquiries on it in the week that it was on Craigslist, and it just so happened that I was able to get there before everybody else. So I guess let's get into why I like these bikes so much, or really why we like these bikes so much, because my better half likes hers just as much as I like mine. And the reason we like these so much, these bikes are a blast. I mean, they're an absolute blast. I can't put it any other way. I mean, it's just, I get asked a lot by people why I like this bike so much, because it's, you know, it's not fast, it's not high performing, it's not, you know, it's not any of those things that people usually associate with a motorcycle. But I always give them the same answer, because they're so much fun. You can't help but have a good time on one of these. You just can't. Every time I swing a leg over it, I have a good time riding it. You know, despite that it, you know, it's obviously it's not fast. It's not gonna, you know, set any speed records going anywhere. And in the dirt, it's certainly not the best dirt bike on the dirt. You know, it's not, you know, when you think of like a motocross bike or something and how well they handle and how fast you can go and, you know, can rip around corners, those things aren't what this bike is about, and that's not what makes it fun. What makes this bike fun is that you can ride it on roads like this, beautiful, you know, back roads, and just enjoy yourself and see the different things that are around you and smell the flowers and smells and just enjoy yourself. And it's perfectly happy, you know, putting along at 5 miles an hour in traffic if you're in a situation like that, or, you know, 35, 40 miles an hour on a back road like this. The bike is perfectly at home, and it is fun to ride. And we like to off-road on these too, and they're fun to ride off-road if you take it in the context of, you know, what this machine is. We like to do mainly dirt roads and, you know, fire roads and maybe some two-track, nothing super technical. And these bikes excel at that. You can just kind of putt along and enjoy the scenery and enjoy where you are and kind of enjoy the journey of getting somewhere. And that's what this bike is all about. I mean, it really is. These bikes are very capable off-road, don't get me wrong. You can take this bike anywhere. You can take this bike places like that I couldn't get my, you know, YZ that I used to own when I did a lot of dirt riding. This bike will go anywhere. It's like a two-wheel tractor, but it's not going to get you there fast, and it's probably not going to get you there in comfort if you want to go fast. So, you know, again, you got to take it kind of in the context of what it is. And that's why we like them so much. So, you know, we ride these things probably 50-50. You know, we go places like Pouchog State Forest down in Connecticut. We love riding down there on the, what they call the big bike route, which is really not super technical at all. It's mostly just dirt roads and stuff. But there's so much to explore down there that we have an absolute blast doing it. And I've also ridden some of what they call the hero sections on this bike without an issue. I've been all over the place in there. But we mainly, you know, when my better half and I get together, or we ride together, she likes the less technical stuff. So, you know, no problem. We can do that all day and have fun. We, you know, pack a lunch and go explore and have a good time doing it. And we also do, you know, probably 50% road on these too. I mean, we go places like, we've ridden the seacoast up Route 1 in Maine is one that comes to mind quite quickly. And if you've ever been there, you'll know that, you know, traffic is just horrendous during the summer. And but to ride from, like, you know, Kittery till, you know, wherever you want to go, you could ride these things all the way to Bar Harbor. And to go, you know, up the seacoast route, going, you know, behind people like I'm doing right now, just kind of plodding along. You could do that on this bike all day long, and you won't be like, all right, it's time to go. You know, you don't get that. You just kind of go with the flow. And the other thing that makes these bikes fun is everywhere we go, people want to talk about them. They want to know what they are. They want to know where they can buy one. And you know, it's we get a lot of people that look at us too, like they watch us go by, go, oh, those guys look like they're having a blast. It's kind of like riding a scooter with a shifter, really. It's that kind of experience. At least that's the way I sometimes tell people. But I get asked about these a lot by a lot of people. And I think part of it is, you know, is the bike itself, because right or wrong, good or bad, you know, the people have some very negative connotations for motorcycles when they see them. Especially, you know, like cruisers like a Harley Davidson is a great example. People tend to associate Harleys with a certain type of person, and again, right or wrong, I personally think that's a wrong assumption to make, but people tend to judge a book by its cover, and a Harley is a very intimidating looking motorcycle to a lot of people, and they think that the person that's on it is also an intimidating person. This bike, very approachable. They're, you know, I mean, listen to the horn. It sounds like a cartoon. It looks like a cartoon. And because of that, these bikes are very approachable. And, you know, I've noticed it, you know, like when I had my Ducati, I'd ride somewhere or I'd ride this. I got approached very differently by people because of the machine that I'm on versus, you know, how I am actually as a person. So, there is some, I mean, I do think there's definitely a truth to it. And, you know, I do hear about people that don't ride motorcycles, and I've talked to them in the past, and they talk about Harleys and the people that ride them, and I'm like, have you ever actually talked to somebody that rides a Harley Davidson? Because some of the greatest human beings I've ever met in my life happen to ride Harley Davidsons. And I'm not a Harley guy. I mean, you know, don't get me wrong, but I've met some people that ride those bikes that are absolutely just fine human beings. And because they ride a bike and dress a certain way when they ride it, people think that they're, you know, some sort of gangster, and that's just not the truth. So, you know, so that makes these fun too. I mean, it really does. We've also done things like we rode these up, we've done this a couple of times where we've gone up the Kangamangas Highway from Conway, New Hampshire all the way to Lincoln. And it's pretty fun to do on a bike that can barely make the climb. It, you know, it's like everything you can do from a performance standpoint to get to the top of that hill, because they just don't have the power to do it. So that makes these fun. We've gone moto camping on these, all sorts of stuff like that. So they're just a fun bike, and that's why we like them so much. You know, as far as like the bike itself, you know, sure, it doesn't have a lot of power. There are a handful of shortcomings, and most of those I've addressed on these, with the exception of power, because there's really, I mean, you have a 200cc 2-valve with low compression. There's really only so much you can do with it. But I've done suspension upgrades. I've added, you know, racks. As you can see one here at the front, I have a first aid kit in there. I have a rack on the back. I can put fuel on there. I've got bags for it. I've put bigger foot pegs on there, different bars. I've got a GPS, a phone mount. I've changed out the mirrors for ones that fold in. Upgraded the brakes. I changed the factory rubber line for a stainless steel braided one. I've made a lot of changes to these bikes in the time that I've owned them to make them better for us. Change the front tire out, you know, just all sorts of stuff like that. And again, we take these things all over the place, so they're really, really fun. We actually have a ride planned coming up at the end of this month. We're going to be taking these up the Puppy Dog Trail, which for anybody unfamiliar with that, it's mostly dirt roads and gravel, and it goes from Greenfield, Massachusetts, all the way to Derby, Vermont, and basically the Canadian border. So you're basically riding the entire length of Vermont from Massachusetts to Canada, and we're going to do that from Greenfield all the way to Canada, and then turn around and come back. And it's going to take us 5 days. At least that's what we're allotting to do it. I know it can be done one direction in one day, but we want to go and see stuff and stop places and, you know, kind of experience a little bit of Vermont. Not a place that we've spent a lot of time as a couple, and not a place that either one of us in our lives have really spent a lot of time. I've fished Champlain a lot. I've fished Magog, which is in Derby. So I've been up there before, but I've only been up there to go fishing. Beyond that, I've spent pretty much zero time in Vermont, at least central Vermont, or anywhere other than Fairleigh, which is the town that was right next to where my grandparents had their house when I was growing up. So I used to go to Fairleigh a lot, but other than that, I never spent any time in Vermont. So I don't know enough about it, but I want to go see what Vermont's all about, and so doesn't she, so we're going to do that. And this is a perfect platform to do that on, because it's going to make us go a little slower, and we're going to see some stuff, and we're going to drive through all sorts of small towns, and the fact that we're doing it, you know, predominantly on dirt is going to make it even more fun than that. So we're actually doing, there's two different versions of that puppy dog. There's a 2012 version that was originally put together in obviously 2012. So we're riding that on the way up, and then we're going to ride the 2018 flavor on the ride back. And it's slightly different. They share some of the same route, but the northern section of it on the 2018 is more west, so it's a little bit more closer to Champlain than it is New Hampshire. And so we're going to do them both, and you know, we're stopping and camping along the way. So we're going to start you know, at our house in Massachusetts, and we're going to head to Greenfield, and we're camping in Greenfield for the night, and then from there we head north, and we're camping just south of Montpelier on some sort of a dairy farm or something. I'm not 100% sure, but it's a farm. So I found all these different farms on a website called Hip Camp, and I booked them for the entire trip, basically, except for Greenfield. We're staying at a traditional campground in Greenfield. But the first night we're staying at a farm. I don't know what kind of farm it is, but I know it's a farm. And then, yeah, it's about 175 miles from Greenfield, so that's what we got to cover day one. And then it's another 140 on day two to Derby, where we're staying at a lavender farm, which should be interesting. I've never seen a lavender farm before. And, you know, she's really excited about it because it's a lavender farm and she likes lavender. So we'll see how that all goes. I'm sure we're going to end up with a bike load full of stuff to go home with. And then you know, from there we leave and head back south. And once again, we're staying just south of Montpelier, but on a different farm. This time it's a vegetable farm. Supposedly on the side of like a mountain. So we'll see how that one goes. And then we leave from there, go back to Greenfield, the same campground we left from, spend another night, and then just head home the next day. So that's going to be our trip. It should be a really good time, and looking forward to it. I mean, we've got the routes all figured out, got it all programmed into the GPS, and it's ready to go, you know, for both north and south, and just got to get you know, get the bikes loaded up with gear and get them ready, and we'll be off, and that'll pretty much be that. So that's all I wanted to talk about today, anyways, was, you know, this bike a little bit, or these bikes, because we have two of them, and you know, why I like them so much. They're like I said, they're just really, really fun. And we've never had a bad time riding these anywhere we've ever taken them. So that's it. Any questions? Feel free to hit me up in the comments here. And also, I changed up my audio setup from what I was using in the last video I made, because I wasn't entirely happy with it, and I'm looking for a little bit of feedback. So what I was using last time was an app on my phone through my comm system, and I was able to get a little bit better by tweaking the settings, but I noticed that it always kind of had these weird pauses, and wasn't really liking that very much. So I bought a Purple Panda mic, which is pretty popular with a lot of moto vlogging people, and I figured I'd take a lesson from them, and I bought the Purple Panda and a you know, not super expensive Sony voice recorder, and in playing with it, it seems a whole heck of a lot better. So I'm curious to see how this comes out, especially since I've had my shield open this entire ride, because it's such a nice day and I want the wind in my face. Curious to see how this sounds, given that I like to ride shield up. So feedback on that would be great, and thanks for watching. Have a good one.